Hey, it's Doug here. Just wanted to pop in before the episode. This one was recorded live at Fincon in New Orleans, and I sit down and chat with Jason. Just want to let you know there's some background noise. I recorded this with Jason in the expo hall, so there's 1,000 people in the giant room. It's the place where all the companies are set up with their booths, and typically they'll have a video booth like we were sitting in, and podcast booths kind of set off in the corner. And the cool thing is those are sponsored by some company that has, a vested interest. Like the podcast booth is sponsored by a guy named Steve Stewart, right? So he has like a podcast editing and production company. So he has all the equipment, he sets it up. He's a good guy, and we're able to just sign up and record there. So typically when I go to these conferences, I'll sign up for at least one podcast session and one video session as well. And, take advantage of the fact that there's a whole lot of people around that typically are not all together. So anyway, I was able to sit down with Jason. We talk about the keyword golden ratio in 2023, some of the pros and cons with the KGR, and because I signed up for a booth, this is kind of a shorter episode, and there's fewer tangents overall. Jason and I, we hung out all week long or all weekend long in New Orleans, had some lunch together and just had some drinks and went out. And if you listen to the last episode, you know that I'm a big proponent of the in-person events. So this kind of goes to show, like, if you show up, like, you can make some really great connections. Let's get to the episode now. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug.Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and today we are recording live here at Fincon. So it's October, we're in New Orleans, and I'm hanging out with my friend Jason, and we're going to talk KGR stuff and some, details about Fincon also. So Jason, how's it going today?
Going good. Thanks, Doug.
You haven't been on the show before, but we've emailed for years, so I feel like I kind of know you a little bit. We've hung out a lot in the last few days, but can you do an intro about, what you do sort of full-time, very brief, and then like why you are here, and we'll unpack it, but a little intro on yourself.
Excellent. Thanks. Yes, so my day job is actually with a fintech firm. Career has been in the institutional trading and finance space. So I've been aware of Fincon for a long time. Big consumer of some of these finfluencer types. But for many of these years, I've been also building content sites, niche sites. And I think I started watching you maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And listening to your podcast. And, your no bullshit style it resonates with me. So I kept listening.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I feel like we've exchanged a lot of emails in the past. So did you get started with niche sites like 5 or 6 years ago, or when were your first sites? What was your introduction?
My first website was in 1997, Doug.
The early days, okay.
Very early, yeah. Yeah, and I did it off and on from there. Sometimes for maybe a startup that I was working on, or for a day job company that I was working for. So to that degree, I guess I was in-house in a way. But I've also been building, content sites as side projects along the way as well.
So when did you start those side projects for like niche sites as we know them these days?
In earnest, I would say, 4 or 5 years ago. That's when I started building my current small portfolio of sites. The few that I have that I directly manage solo are on the smaller side. Got a couple that I'm involved in with partners. They're sort of the face of the sites. They've got sort of in real life qualifications. And then I'm invested in one significantly larger site, not doing any operations on it.
Got it. Okay, so how many sites do you own and run solo, and then how many do you have like partners and stuff?
I'd say 3 solo, 2 others with partners.
Okay. So about 5 total.
Correct.
For the 3, when did you start them? Can you talk about like some of the history with those 3 sites?
Yeah. So started them a lot longer ago than the current traffic would suggest, because the day job and all, and shiny object syndrome. I'm a victim, or I'm exposed to that. But I'd say I started those 4 or 5 years ago. I've got a brand new site actually that I just started as well. As I mentioned to you the other day, I jumped into Spencer Hawes' AI site challenge, so just started up a new recent one. So again, shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. And funny enough, so Fincon's great. Spencer, like I could see him, he's right over there. I see him in his booth. First time I met Spencer, even though we've known each other for maybe about a decade, which is crazy, just online. But yeah, first time I met Spencer here. So
awesome.
That brings us to, why you're at Fincon. So part of it, you said, you're in the finance industry. So like you're aware of the companies, but like you haven't been before. So maybe like the vibe here is a little bit different than the kind of conference you would normally attend for.
Absolutely.
So yeah, why are you here in New Orleans?
Yeah, well, to meet a few folks that I've known for a long time, but never met in person, which has been awesome. And I met people I didn't even expect were going to be here, so that's been great. And yeah, there's a couple of startups here that are not too far afield from stuff that I'm currently involved in. So I was aware that they were going to be, they had booths there. Just to do the Fincon thing, it's almost like that trip to Mecca, if you're in the space. It's and it was in New Orleans, so it moves around every year. But when I saw it was in New Orleans, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm pulling the trigger.
Cool. Yeah, and you, I think you emailed me, 6 or 8 months ago, just to double check. And I bought my ticket like way back. It is, I've only been to 3 of them, this one included, and I have a ton of friends. I probably have like 50 friends. I might see them 1 or 2 other times during the year. But yeah, these conferences are really cool, and I talk about it often. And I'm actually bad with like forums and communities. I just don't participate. This is like what I do instead, and it's it serves a different purpose. But this is a lot of fun, and you really, if you know a couple people,
right,
you get introduced to like 50 more, and then you see them the next year. And if you just go like 2 or 3 years, like you will know a ton of people. Now, the other thing is you're in the space, like you follow along with some of the financial independence bloggers and podcasts as well. So can you talk about that? Like, how'd you get exposed to that side of the blog?
So it's interesting. It's like the cobbler needs new shoes thing. So I've been in the finance industry for most of my career, but didn't do nearly as good a job with my retirement planning as I should have, that sort of thing. So despite having the golden handcuffs, probably because of, the comfortable paycheck from the industry that I'm in made me lazy, probably. And so I would say, again, 5, maybe 8 years ago, it started to become clear that I needed to start doing some catch-up, change the way I was managing my finances and whatnot. And so I think specifically I started looking at retirement plans. And at that time, I also started to more actively explore alternative investing and angel investing, things like that. For a lot of the time in my career, I was actually working for a large bank, and you're sort of limited in what you're permitted to do outside of your job.
Right.
So that's also just partly an excuse, right? There was still better planning I could have done. So,
right.
So yeah, a lot of the folks that I looked at were focused on, just budgeting and retirement planning. Interestingly, and I don't say it too loud here at Fincon, but I have my reservations about the whole FIRE thing. So But if you say it too loud in certain circles, you're going to get stink eye. So
Well, go on. I'm curious because I mean, like, a lot of people do have reservations about it, and I think like in the beginning. So I'm like sort of newer to this world. Maybe like 2020 is when I started looking a little more closely. But yeah, there's a big contrast from like the earlier bloggers, like say 2010 to 2015 or so, maybe like the first generation of those early retirement bloggers, to where they are now, where it's like it's a different priority set and a different set of goals. But yeah, what are your reservations about the FIRE portions? It's financial independence, retire early.
Yeah, it's twofold, and they're probably interlinked. So I mean, I think the notion that you're meant to take this large percentage of your income and sock it away. First of all, the basics are great. Invest conservatively and regularly and consistently. Do it mechanically. Don't pay too much attention to it. Index funds are fine. Budgeting is great. Being frugal, even. I'm a cheapskate. I'm down with all that stuff. That's fine, right? But most of the population of this country, and honestly the world, they're never going to be in a position where they're making even enough money in the first place to take 50% or more and put it aside. So it's like a self-selecting thing. So that my first big complaint with it is it's fine for people that can afford to actually do it. But if you're never in a position where you're making enough money in the first place, then it's not an option. And so, and I think a lot of influencers sort of recognize this. And so a lot of folks that are, not exclusively in the FIRE space, they'll talk about it, but they'll also talk about side hustles and, how to do part-time jobs and sort of income stacking and all of that. And that's great. And that's the way you do it. You kind of stair step into a place where you're making more money and you can save more. My other complaint about it is like the retire part, right? And you and Carl have talked about this a lot, and spot on, because I think a lot of people, it's conceptually it's retiring, but it's not really. People don't want to stop doing things. They want to keep being productive. But I think there's folks at the other end who might have been able to put money aside when they were younger. Maybe they had extra kids or they had medical conditions or whatever, but by the time they get to retirement age, even though they may have a decent retirement account, they're still not in a position where they can retire. And so I'm more of a retire never kind of guy, partly because I just like to work, partly because I think most people with cost of living and everything are going to have extra income.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of the two related.
Okay. I think those are valid. Those are weak points, though, but they're valid. Yeah. So, no, I think so. Part of it, and we'll have just a little debate because I mean, like, I those are valid. The first point on like this is really hard to do for most of the population. True, but there's a huge number of people, even if it's like 5%. It's more than that,
can
but
still
like
do it.
They can do it, and
Absolutely.
it's like, do you
For them, it's
do
them,
you
it's an
create
option.
a blog? Do you create content for everyone, or do you like focus on like the audience?
Absolutely true.
The people
I'm a niche down kind of guy,
Yeah.
so valid point.
Yep. So it doesn't apply to everyone. The value
that's
you
okay.
still get is like the knowledge of what you could do. So even
Right.
if you don't save 50%, you save 30% instead. That's much better than 10%. And then if you look at the compound interest, I mean, it's going to shave
That's right.
a lot of time off. So even if you can't do it and by the way, the maturity of the sort of niche in the industry has shifted towards like, hey, don't sprint to try to retire early where you like hate your job, you hate your life, you're working too much, versus like, why don't you just work a little longer and find a job that you like better and you have the flexibility.
Has evolved and changed
Yeah.
some. That's true. Yeah.
So a lot of my friends actually sprinted to retirement and then they weren't happier when they stopped working.
Right.
So they had to figure out their other issues and problems.
That's a great problem to have, though.
Yeah. And then the other thing, 100%, like most people don't retire. They just like they have flexibility to do less or work on projects that they want to. If you just sit around and do nothing, that's probably not the greatest move. People
but are
usually
you better off if you would have saved extra early on in life? You probably are. Even if you still have to work.
And there's a full spectrum. So anyway, valid points. But
valid points too.
Okay, perfect. We just agree. Okay, so we will, I don't know if I emphasized earlier, we will talk keyword golden ratio. So
Love it.
I need to refresh some of the videos. People still talk about the KGR, but I haven't in a while. So Jason, you've been a good proponent for it, and you've been looking at it more deeply. So actually, I will let you, if you're up for it, define the KGR. We can link to other videos and stuff, but yeah, talk about KGR.
Happy to, because I love the keyword golden ratio. Thank you, Doug, for turning me onto it. So, because that was one of the first things that I actually picked up from you when I started watching. So maybe because we're at Fincon, we can like geek on some economics a little bit, some
Please.
economics theory. Okay. So the reason the keyword golden ratio is awesome is because it is this really simple, elegant formula for identifying imbalance. And what kind of imbalance are we talking about? It's supply and demand imbalance. And if people don't appreciate it, supply and demand, the law of supply and demand is everywhere. I mean, people think of it like it happens in the marketplace, maybe in the stock market, or during the pandemic, everyone wanted toilet paper and there was no toilet paper, the price of toilet paper goes up, I mean, the truth is supply and demand dynamics are absolutely everywhere. Every complex system has them. And they very much happen in the Google SERP. So we know that when we put a keyword in, as long as it's a word that Google even vaguely understands, or a set of words, they're going to give some results. They have to give some results. But when you take a closer look at what they give, you start to realize that for every search term, for the search intent, the true search intent, they don't necessarily have a large supply of pages that are truly targeting that keyword, that search term, or that search intent, but they still have to give you stuff. So what the keyword golden ratio does, in my view, is it helps you quickly identify if there are not enough pages that are targeting that search intent, that are targeting that search term. And when there is a lack of supply of good pages targeting a keyword, that's an opportunity for us to step in and do a better page and leap to the top of the rankings. Now, the way the keyword golden ratio works, I won't give you the formula. You can put a card or something, the thing you do, but the way it basically works is it looks at search volume, and then it identifies pages targeting the keyword, and it does that by looking at the all-in title. So traditionally, we were meant to go to Google and use a search operator, which is all-in title : and then you put the keyword in. And that search operator is a tool that Google gives us. They give us a bunch of search operators. But what that allows us to do is look for that keyword just in the title of the pages that are coming up in the results. And so by identifying how many all-in title matches there are, you have a rough but actually quite effective way of identifying the number of pages targeting the keyword. And when you look at the volume and you look at the number of pages targeting the keyword, and you see that's a really short list, and by the way, they're really crappy pages too, then you know you've got an opportunity to go attack that SERP. And that's why I love KGR, because it's simple and it quickly identifies supply and demand imbalance.
Well said. Well said.
And I'm a finance and numbers geek, so that's also why I love it.
And it's a simple formula, and it's intended to be that way. So a lot of folks, especially early on, were trying to, correct me, to critique the formula, which is fine, right? That's how things get better. But basically, they wanted to add more detail into the formula, and it gets complicated quick. And you lose people. And a quick analogy, because we are at Fincon. So for early retirement, a lot of people talk about the 4% rule.
Right.
And you take your annual expenses, you multiply it by 25, and that tells you your nest egg, which is the reciprocal of 4% rule. And
right.
So anyway, the point is, it's a very simple formula. It's not exactly right, but it's simple enough once someone figures out how much their annual expenses are, which most people don't know right off the bat. But once they figure that out and go through the exercise, they know if they're in the ballpark,
that's right,
very close to being able to retire early. So that's what KGR can do. Now, from you defined it really well. You've thought about it more recently than I have, so I'm glad it's we stay up late at these conferences too. Quick tangent. What'd you get up to last night? Did you go to bed early, or what was your deal?
I was actually responsible last night because I wasn't the previous nights. But I had dinner with some folks that I met, which was awesome.
Cool.
A couple of beers and then back home.
Okay, smart. Yeah, about the same here. My panel, my talk is tomorrow, so it's kind of the last thing I'm doing. So I have to be mature, be an adult this whole time. So yeah, I had a couple things to do last night, but it was a nice dinner. But a few of us just like bailed early. Some people were like, "Hey, we're getting one more round here," and I was like, "Okay, I think we'll go." And I almost felt bad to leave. It was someone's birthday, but I was like, "This will be better." Like other people have left. It was close to midnight, so it's like, okay, that's fair.
The one more round effect, It happens.
Yeah, it's like, let's do a shot for the birthday, and then next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. And I've done that before, and turns out the hangovers last like 3-4 days now. It's bad. Okay.
It's a function of getting older. But we're not old. We're just older.
Back on track. So what are some of the issues that pop up with KGR, right? So it's simple. It's limited in a lot of ways, but for certain things, it's very good. And it's very good for brand new websites or people that are kind of getting started and they don't know how to prioritize the thousands of keywords they've looked at. So it can help you in those ways. But yeah, what limitations have you found with either the KGR or the process?
Right. So yeah, as I sort of alluded to earlier, most of the sites I work on are, unfortunately, they're still, on the smaller end of the spectrum, but there's so many long tail keywords, there's so many opportunities that are out there, and I think that's where the KGR helps the most, right? So there's a couple of things. So just specifically around the 250 search volume threshold, which is something that you put into the equation, you put into the rule, but it's a good threshold. I think a lot of people have experimented with trying to use the KGR for search volumes over 250. And it's okay, and I think you've said that. You've given us all permission to use it for higher search volumes. But here again, I think there's, you just Google law of large numbers, you can get a sense statistically why there are rules or laws or principles that work very effectively with smaller numbers, and they do different things with large numbers. And again, you can see this manifest in different ways, but that's the case here too. So if you're using KGR, I use 260 for a very geeky little reason, because most of the keyword tools, they get their search volume from Google. Google's API actually pushes the search volume numbers out in buckets. And so if you ever look at a large list of keywords and the search volumes, you'll see these sort of ladders. There isn't like a lot of graduation between, it goes 0 to 10 and then 10 to 20 and then 50 and so on. And so if I include 260, I get like a few more keywords in the mix. So I use 260 instead of 250, but same principle. And but I think, as long as you're aware of it, like you were talking before about the 4% rule, you want to know that you're sort of in the neighborhood. You're in the vicinity of on target. And I think it's the same with KGR. So you can use it for higher search volumes, but if you're going to try to do it on 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 search volume keywords, you're going to have more difficulty. The reason for that is not just because of the search volume, it's because at those bigger numbers, the competition is very different. And I believe that, and it's just my theory, Google is also applying different criteria to try and filter out the competition on those bigger keywords. And then when you get into things like YMYL, I think even more so. They've got extra filters on top of those other ones. And so keep it simple, as you said. Use it on smaller search volume keywords, and I think you're golden. The other problem that I discovered some time back, and I think most people who do the KGR have seen this, is when you use the Google search operator, the all-in title search operator, you start to see that the results Google gives back using this tool are often inaccurate. So you'll find things in the results that are not actual all-in title matches. And so the question then is like, if it's giving me 8 results and I just take the number and say, okay, all-in title is 8, but actually 4 of them aren't even all-in title matches, well, then it's even more low-hanging fruit in a way. Then presumably there's even less supply for that demand. The problem is I found that when I did some research, I found that the inverse is true also. There are actually competing pages that aren't showing up in the all-in title results. And so this is what led me to try and come up with a tool that sort of gave better all-in title results back.
That was one of the struggles, one of the issues. I feel like all-in title got worse over time.
It did.
And maybe more people were using it, and I don't know. It seems like a simple thing for
Google to keep working.
I
right?
mean, just
I have my theory.
What's your theory? Yeah.
So I think with the tools that their internal team uses, maybe to do validation on, like they have their sandbox before they push out their big Google updates and wipe us all out, right? Mm-hmm. Before they push those changes out, I think they're doing internal quality assurance kind of stuff.
You think they do quality assurance? That's generous.
I think they do. I suspect
I'm just kidding. They have to. I mean, they're software people. I'm sure they do, but it seems like they don't.
It's early in the morning. My sarcasm radar is off, so sorry. Yes, no, I think they do quality assurance. I think they have sandbox but I think the tools that they have that help their team do their job are maintained. And I'm not sure that they care about this, so they're not maintaining it. Because I think the way it works is, just like they have that short index, like we know that when you search a Google term, they're not going to like all 1 billion potential results and looking through all of them every time. They have like this short index or 200, 300, 400 pages, and that's always changing, of course, but they query that, and they look at your location and other stuff. But my sense and the feedback from other folks in the community is that when you do an all-in title, they've got a separate mini index just for that. But that thing is all decrepit. I don't want to say too many expletives here, but like it's really effed up, right? So I think when you do the all-in title, what you're seeing there is stale, basically. And that's my theory, but who knows?
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, so we are coming up on maybe like 5 minutes left or so. So talk about SERP Sonar a little bit that solves some of the issues.
Yep. Thank you. So it's a free browser extension. Thank you for playing with it a bit and giving feedback. It's very helpful. It does a whole bunch of stuff. It basically looks at the first 100 results. It brings a lot of data, surfaces a lot of data from the SERP itself, but it also goes to all of the resulting pages and pulls data back from there, the H tags, titles, and whatnot. But one of the first things I wanted this thing to do was to be able to look at all of the SERP titles, because we know the SERP titles are different than the page titles. Google rewrites SERP titles. It rewrites SERP descriptions. So the tool at a glance will give you the all-in title, both for the original page title and the SERP title. It'll give you an all-in description. It'll give you an all-in URL, and it basically gives an all-in for a bunch of things that you actually couldn't get from Google, from the search operators.
Okay. Do you run into any issues with unusual searches, right? So when Google sees you running a lot of advanced searches, it's like, hey, what's going on over there? It looks like a bot, right? It looks like a bot, which is what your tool is doing, right?
Right. So, well, two things. It runs all on the client side, so we're not sort of a traditional SaaS. There's no server side anything. So anybody that is running this, it's all happening on their own machine. But at the moment, it's a one-off. You do a Google search, you click the icon, it runs a scan.
Yep.
Now we're about to release bulk scans for up to 100 keywords we're going to try. Fact is, we may bump into that, getting CAPTCHAs or whatever, but we'll see how it goes once we release the bulk scan.
Got it. So who's a good fit to check out? It's a free plugin?
Free browser extension, free Chrome extension. Chrome only at the moment.
So who's a good fit to check this out?
Anybody that does, so my pitch is it's for keyword and topic research and competitor research, but it's for folks doing content sites, anybody that needs to rank higher in the SERP, but there's also features there for maybe brand managers as well. I mean, there's a lot more to the tool than just the KGR stuff. Oh, I should have mentioned also, at the moment, if you've got keywords everywhere, the very excellent plugin.
Great tool.
Yeah, we love it. And you're getting the search volume from keywords everywhere. We'll pull in the search volume and we'll calculate the KGR automatically.
Okay.
So we get the all-in title number, an accurate one, but if you've got the search volume in there, we also calculate the KGR.
Okay, that's all. It saves a huge amount of time. Okay, so unfortunately we only have 30 minutes here, so we'll have to cut it short. We could probably talk for hours, and we did before.
That.
Yeah. So where should people find this tool, and where should they find you?
The tool is SERPSonar.com, SERP Sonar, SONAR, SERPSonar.com. So go there, check out the videos and whatnot, and go to the Chrome store and download the extension. I'm on most of the places as J. Paul Hendricks, so find me on Facebook, Twitter sometimes. There you go.
Cool. Yeah, we'll link up to all this stuff. And thanks, Jason. It's been a pleasure to meet you and hang out. And people should come to conferences. Like, they're really fun. Everyone's super nice.
I've been to a bunch of SEO and digital marketing conferences this year as well. They're awesome. Everybody should do what Doug says and come to conferences.
All right. Thanks, man. And we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.